Sports Illustrated Radio on loudradio.tv.
Mark Andrews, welcome to the Sports Illustrated show on Loud Radio. How are you today?
Very well, thank you yourself.
Excellent. You're speaking to Don, Skulk and Gareth. Just wanted to touch base, see what Mark Andrews has been up to in the last 11 years since you stopped gracing the fields of South African rugby.
Yeah, trying to earn a living in the real world, eh?
Aren't we all?
I've got a company that we supply a mass mart to, owned by Walmart. So we supply about 2,000 products, which are sourced from China, India, Indonesia, and Taiwan.
Okay. Does that still entail a lot of travelling then for yourself?
Yeah, sadly when I retired from rugby, I asked my wife that the next 2 years I won't get in an airplane and stay in a hotel room again. I now do about 3 months a year overseas, and I spend probably more time flying internationally than I ever did playing rugby, sadly.
That must be quite tough as well, because when you're travelling as a rugby player, you're essentially with a whole bunch of your teammates, really, as opposed to, I suppose, travelling on your own.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's nice to have to share a room with them like Ollie LaRue and do those unpleasant and different things in life. But yeah, it took a while to get used to not being able to walk down to the team room and find someone for a game of pool or game of table tennis or something, go for coffee. But it's, I got to try not to just work, sadly, so I don't really have much free time at all. We adjusted pretty quickly, and in my mind, I actually enjoyed having it on myself.
And then, Mark, I mean, let's talk about your rugby career. I picked up somewhere online that you started your career as an inside centre at the age of 6. But
Jesus, you've got no work to do. You're searching that far back.
But the one position that because you were a lock and everyone knows you're a lock, but we can all never forget the fact that you wore an 8 on the back of your jersey in that '95 World Cup final. Do you still have many fond memories of that? I know you experienced it that you likened it to the experience of having your first child lifting that World Cup trophy.
Yeah, funny enough, I just came from Singapore where I did a rugby dinner and a luncheon for the Singapore Sevens. I was after the coast. And I was asked the very same question about the change from playing lock to 8 men in the World Cup semi-final and final. Contrary to what many people probably believe, that it was two of the most unhappiest weeks in my rugby career. It was, I just at that stage almost cemented myself as a second row lock. I've just been so raced by the world press as in the top couple of locks in the world. And then Kitch coming to the bombshell made me play 8 man. He didn't really make the game after either playing 8 man or sitting on the bench, so it was a hard decision. So, and it was then having to go right back and almost play a new position, but now it's probably the two biggest pressure games any player has had in their life. So I'd last played at 8 man number 14 at Selborne College, and that was like the sum total of my experience at 8 man. So it was incredibly stressful. I remember going to train session in the week of the World Cup final and sitting in the bus and driving along Joburg, the highways. And there was a billboard, not a billboard, a sign in the newspaper stick up those teasers on the lamppost. And it said, Will Andrews cost us the World Cup final.
No pressure there.
I was 22 years old and I'm thinking, geez, I mean, there's enough pressure as it is now to know with the potential loss of the World Cup for my team, my country, on my shoulders. So it wasn't a great experience for me. It was probably two of the worst stressful weeks in my life. It all ended very well there, but still, I don't sadly have great memories now about 2 weeks. It was just probably too much stress that I could handle and absorb at that time.
Yeah, Mark Skulk here. We just actually before we tweeted that you were our guest today. What happened yesterday or the day before? Someone actually came up with this thing. What would have happened had Twitter been around? And the first example they used was you being selected at 8th man. I suppose in light of the Frans van Lerber going over to replace Beast, Tited going over to replace a Lucid, and people were absolutely livid about it. So, I mean, but I think you touched on that just in terms of what was the public, or what did you pick up, or did you not try and pay too much attention to what the public view was on you moving into such a, basically a crucial position from your best position at the time?
Yeah, it's something I think lots of players go through in their careers where where if they play open side of the flank and they get moved to 8-man, or play inside centre, outside, or fullback to fly off. The most important thing for me, and just from my experience, is that you first have to have belief in yourself. I mean, if you doubt in yourself that you can do it, you're never going to achieve. And the second thing is that your coaches, your management, put you in that position.
Yeah.
They have to give you the absolute confidence that they believe it's the right thing for the team and potentially for your career. I think it's always a failure where if a player gets put in a position that he isn't comfortable with and he has doubts in himself, and then his coaches or management kind of also seem to have doubts in him. It's always a recipe for disaster. In the front row, to those people who never played in the top five, they would probably think, well, a prop's a prop.
Yeah.
The same thing as a Scannon and Lucid and the tight is the same thing. But when you get to the level you play at, where a tight is an incredibly specialised position, especially at test level, it's a hell of a ask on any front row to change from a Lucid and a tight. And there's very few players who are affected by the Lucid and the tight at test level. They can play on club level or maybe a couple of virtual games. But the biggest thing, the player's got to believe he can do it, because belief is an incredibly powerful thing. And then the player has to have the backing of his coaches and management who honestly believe he can do the job. And normally, a player will get through. He may get fired out after a couple of games, but let's get through the first double.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, sorry, it's Gareth here. I think touching on that, something that we picked up this week is when we look at the locks that we've got there, guys often talk about the tight lock or the number 4 lock and the number 5, the line-out jumper type of lock. But it seems with Etzebeth there just coming on so well, playing and also stealing a lot of line-up ball. Do you think he's got to be the enforcer forever and ever, or do you think that he's a player that could make that switch to maybe running the line-outs as he gets a bit older? Has he got the capabilities to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I would have liked to have seen Etzebeth play with someone like Bucky's Berto or Victor. He has an incredible talent. I mean, his maturity showing the line-outs has been fantastic. He's got a huge amount of confidence in carrying the ball up. I think sadly that he may be being set up by the media and the public and maybe his coaches for a fall later in his career, if not sooner, in the sense of he's a big boy, he's a strong boy. Every single pack and the factors back in world rugby and even not done a club rugby has one of the second rows who has the ability to be physical presence in the game. And normally as the second row comes down to ruck time. In the Springbok side, I think one of the things lacking at the moment is that we've got senior players who think they're ball carriers. And Etzebeth has been put in that position in the province where he's a ball carrier. And the Springboks, I think it's very different. I think it's the situation now which is concerning me that guys like Willem Alberts have disappeared since playing the Test Rugby this season. If you look at the game as a purely technical aspect, you see Alberts has seen more rucks than anybody else in the team. Alberts is one of the most effective ball carriers in world rugby. He's a big boy, he runs it up hard, he gets across the goal all the time. Etzebeth is standing out a lot of the time waiting to carry ball up, and he's had a couple of bad luck in his lost ball carrying, especially quite close to try. It's happened a few times now, where I think his role should be to actually hit rucks. He's 100+ kilograms, he's incredibly strong. We need to have someone like Etzebeth who actually owns the breakdown. The All Blacks always believe in owning the breakdown.
Yeah.
And at the moment, I mean, and again, I'm probably watching more in detail than the public or the journalists, purely because of the position I understand and I played for him. I don't see hitting rucks. Everybody's talking up about him, and he has all the ingredients to be a world-class player and to be an anchor of the Springbok pack for years to come. But right now, in this early stage in his career, we need someone to put him aside and say, oh boy, you have some key parts to your game which are expected of you. And one of them is hitting rucks. And one of them is not just joining the ruck, he's actually hitting the ruck. At the moment, he's not hitting rucks. He hasn't hit ruck this whole season. He's got away in the province side and probably Super Rugby where he's got a very physical province pack. He's allowed him to play open and looser game. And the Springbok side now, it is crucial for the Springboks' success going forward to have a guy like Etzebeth who has the ticks in all the right boxes in all the parts of his game. But he doesn't hit rucks. He believes he's a ball carrier, and there's nothing wrong with being a ball carrier when play comes your way because of the way the game is gone. But he actually runs away from breakdown and actually goes towards breakdown. If you watch him, he, in the old day, we used to talk about Piano on the side of the ruck. He just touches it and stands from defensively. If it's the carrying ball up, he comes and he actually stands back to try and get in the running position. He never ever owns a breakdown. And I think if someone works with him with that and points it out as an opportunity for him to improve his game, he will become a world-class second row. But at the moment, it's one big weakness in his game.
So is that a attitude thing, Mark, or is that a coaching thing?
I think it's a coaching thing. He's probably got a way of being a ball carrier as a schoolboy and as a youngster of being so big. I was the same position. I was very lucky. I started playing. I had Steve Atherton. He weighed 128 kilograms and was a mute. And then I faced Sasaki. And Ian McIntosh, I came along and Mac said, "Hey, you're an athlete. Your job is to hit rucks and own the ruck, own the breakdown, and put it on the back foot if it's we carry nothing, or if they can put in the back foot where it slows the ball down." So I led to a triple spinal fusion and 3 shoulder operations. But after my career, but it is something that if you look at every successful side, from Martin Johnson, who's a world-class locker, if you look at John Eales, he was never a physical. Every locker that played with him was always a physical guy getting involved in the breakdown. All Blacks have always had lots of youth who normally has the ability to all over ruck very effectively. So I think he's become like that because he's been big and getting the ball carrier in his younger years. But now you got Willem Albert, as I say, one of the best ball carriers in the world. He needs to be coached, and sadly, the effectively attitude. It's you get hurt, and it's not the easiest thing to fly into someone and try and wipe them out all the time. I mean, you get sore, you get really sore. But it's an easy attitude, but it's also coached. You need to be coached, and you need to understand what your role is on the side.
Do you think we, or South African rugby fans, do you think we didn't really realize how fortunate or lucky we were to have for so many years to have like a Victor Mbakis just doing what locks are supposed to do so perfectly that now that we don't have them anymore, we see more and more weaknesses in the guys trying to fill their shoes now?
Absolutely. I think if probably for me, one of the best lock pairings in world rugby ever has been Bucky's Berto and Victor Mitchell. Yeah. I think if you take Victor by himself, and when he played without Bucky's, he wasn't a great second row. He wasn't. I mean, he never hit the ruck. He never carried the ball very strongly. He never played big defensive hits. They controlled the line-outs, which was a crucial part of the game. His kickoff was brilliant. His general play was great, but he was world-class on 2 of the aspects of his game. You take Bucky's Berto, got by in line-outs. He was never going to be the mastermind of a line-out. He got by in the kickoffs, but by God did he hit rucks. He was incredibly strong on the tight head, and he could make a defensive and offensive tackles all day. So between the two of them, if you take probably the 5 roles of what a lock forward should be doing, between the two of them, they had 5 parts of it which were world-class. It's very hard to compete against that. So we were spoiled. Apart from that, we were very spoiled. But I think the situation now, we're having else. We've got Etzebeth, he's young. He needs lots of probably mentorship by someone like Victor or Buckley, and they're not there. Yeah. And it's been a 21-year-old to try and run the shipment. You're very inexperienced. It's a lot of pressure on him.
But you see
him, he doesn't have someone.
Yeah, but you do see a big role for him in Bok rugby.
Absolutely. I said it earlier. There's a huge role for him. I mean, a guy like Etzebeth, he's someone who you can build your back around in years to come. Yeah. You really can.
Yeah.
But only if he gets taught and gets taught. It's very hard to teach a guy to start becoming an aggressive, effective runner when he's 26 years old. It's not going to happen. His game now is established in a certain style. And right now, the age he is now, someone needs to put him aside and get him to understand that. Otherwise, he will never be a world-class lock. Unless he ends up playing with someone who makes up for the deficiency in his game.
Well, I mean, that's what we need to talk about. They've got Jandre Krier playing with him now. I mean, just quickly, your views on him?
Yeah, he's a drafter. Again, my belief is that world-class sides are world-class players, and not all 15. You probably only need a 30 or side to be world-class players. And often in that crucial spine position of a team, in your hooker and your 8 man on your flankers, your lots of scrum, your fly, one centre and a fullback, and potentially a wing. If you have world-class players and the rest of the guys are good test players, you'll beat any side, or you have the ability to beat any side. Genre, for me, he's just a good heavy player. I don't think he's ever going to be a great Springbok. He's not going to be a world-class player. He just doesn't have the size. He doesn't have enough of those world-class attributes to his game. So he's a good player. He's a solid. He'll give you the 100% for 80 minutes. You can't fault his game, but it's. I just don't think, and it's a hard thing to say, and it's a hard thing for a player to hear. And I'd love to be proven wrong by this, but I don't think he'll be a world-class player in the block position.
And then in terms of alternates, I mean, there's the injury-ravaged Andries Becker.
Yeah, Andries for me started off a bit all over the place. He started his career. He was probably where I ended my career in the wing. He spent most of his time following me started his career. But if you spend time in the wing, you still have to make sure you hit enough ruck and do the hard yards in the game. He wasn't doing that. He developed his game. He became very physical. He became very abrasive in his style. His line-out maturity, he carried the ball very well. But I think as he picked up a couple of injuries, he's sort of shying away from the physical side again. Hopefully he'll sort himself out physically and be able to get back into a mold in the box side, because he's a world-class player. I mean, he's hard to use. He dominates line-outs. He can tackle. He can carry the ball. I mean, he has enough ticks, as I call it, in the right boxes to make him a world-class player. But just the one side, he does come back. I'd like to see him become a little bit more abrasive again in his play, but at the right times.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I think basically the thing that's come out of this for me, from what you're saying, is if you think it's something that the Springboks have to watch very carefully, is having enough guys, no matter how strong they are. I go through kind of thinking about guys, Skulk, Bismarck, Pierce Spies, whoever they might put in there, getting the balance right and making sure it's not just sort of a Willem Alberts hitting rucks. Now Francois Lowe's the guy hitting a lot of rucks. Is it quite a balance to get those guys, as much as they like to ball run, doing the hard work?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to play against the All Blacks 19 times in my career, and the All Blacks were a side I admired a huge amount. And I was lucky enough to end up playing with like Ian Jones and Barbars. I played 5 games with the Barbars with him. I remember always being amazed at how small Ian Jones was. He weighed 107 kilograms. I mean, he was a schoolboy road blocks these days. The centres do as much as he does. But the one thing, I remember just doing the drills and doing some practice runs with the Barbars, how effectively he rucked. How effectively he had Mark May Hoffler as an All Black centre in Newcastle for 2 years. How effectively they rucked. And the game is about owning the breakdown. It is. I mean, if you own the breakdown, whether you carry the ball in or whether you tackle it, if you slow down the opponent's ball, you slow it down by putting them going backwards and making them come off big for the ball, and because kind of creates for himself. Your defense is in the front foot straight away. So it's rare for me. It's just all Blacks always played in a way that, whether it was the top hitting the ruck or it was the fullback, they could all ruck effectively, and they all had one thing in mind. When they had the ball, was to get quick clean ball to the scummy, and if they were defending, to give you bad ball by rucking if they can't ruck it against you. It just concerns me in our Springbok side at the moment. We don't do that. We played against the Irish in the weekend. We were out-rucked we were beaten to the breakdown in the first half. We got all the penalties that go against you. You're bench. But you have to own the breakdown. You have to own the contact firstly by, if you're making the tackle, try and put the contact back, the momentum backwards. And if you're carrying it, to try and get the momentum in impact. And we're not quite getting it. It's very hard to get that right when you're getting slow ball after from the breakdown. So maybe I'm a little bit old-fashioned in a sense, but there's the old saying that the game's always won lots up front. And concern for me is our box side aren't quick enough for the breakdown, and we don't own the breakdown.
That was Ireland, and I mean your concerns. I think a lot of us share your concerns. A lot of us picked that up. When just looking ahead to Scotland at the weekend, I think you were in that team that beat them 68-10 in '97, weren't you, Mark?
Yeah.
So I mean, just going into this test, or to compare it with what was happening at the time there, when you guys absolutely slaughtered them. You were on a pretty good wicket with your coach there. I mean, everything was going well. I think I assume I'm correct in saying that. I think you can almost see the pressure starting to tell on Heineke Meyer a bit. How much of that, I mean, the pressure on the coach, how much of that filters through? How much pressure do the players feel when it's on the coach that much?
Absolutely. I mean, I was unlucky enough to play through 8 different Springbok coaches in my career. And the coaches didn't last very well, and we weren't successful. And there were the coaches who actually wore the pressure on their team. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And then a guy like Nick Millett, when he went through the 17 tests, I mean, you can criticize Nick about a lot of things, but you can't criticize him about his lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And when a journalist, the public, was questioning his tactics, I mean, you just call them an idiot and think that they were useless and ideas and questions. So, as a player, you kind of carry the same feeling. Well, he's just our coach, and he's got absolutely no doubts about the way we play and what's going to happen. And, well, I always know what he's doing. And when you have a coach who starts looking around at press conferences and starts thinking carefully about his way, you kind of, this coach is not quite sure what he's going to say and how he's going to say it, and maybe he's not quite sure of how we should be playing. And the players pick it up. So it's a very hard thing, because the pressure in the Springbok coaching job is incredible. And as I say, I've seen some coaches become very unhappy people in that position, and even when they're winning. So the players do feel it, and it's a very hard thing, I think, as a coach to manage. It's probably why I'm in the business world and not sitting in the coaching booth somewhere.
Because when the one thing that stood out, we talked about it in the office earlier when the box side was just announced. I don't know if you've seen it. 2 changes basically.
Yeah.
Guthrie coming in for CJ and De Jong coming in for Tauta at 13. But then Heineke goes and says, he picked Guthrie because he knows the conditions well. Guthrie has been playing in France the whole season, not in the UK. And
I think it's referring to the weather and the climate.
Yeah, but I mean,
I
know the conditions well. Mark, we sort of know what to expect there. Yeah, look, this is nothing against Guthrie. Nothing against Guthrie. It's just you sort of, I mean, Heineke is a bit all over the show, isn't he?
Absolutely. I think some of the statements he's made, but again, I mean, you probably look back in a couple of years' time and his press conferences, the things he said, and you're thinking, geez, how did I say that? What was I thinking?
Yeah.
But there's a whole big thing. There's the whole saying in sport, and it's so true. You can't walk into a sports store and buy experience. You have to earn it.
Yeah.
And I think Heineke, even though he thought he coached the Bulls and he had coached the Bulls very successfully, it's a complete different level at the Springbok level. So on Heineke's side, he's basically earning his stripes at the moment. He's going to say some stupid things and some silly things and some naive things. Hopefully he learns weekly on the job and doesn't take it a year or two to learn it. But yeah, I must have been a bit surprised at how undecisive and having to feel like he has to explain everything. He doesn't have to explain his position. He can just, this is my side, and this is the side I'm leaving. In the story, I'll prove it to the weekend. But he kind of almost seems to be convincing himself and what he's saying. So, yeah, hopefully he'll, the Boks will win the next 2 games. He'll get some confidence back and he'll go into great things this time.
I mean, just in terms of Meyer, you were talking earlier about the fact that games are won and lost up front. And I mean, he has inherited and created an extremely young and inexperienced Bok pack. And I mean, you talk about the experience of hitting rucks, and I mean, does it play as crucial a role in terms of having guys that, I mean, at one stage we fielded a pack that had less caps than Nathan Sharp, who was in the opposite scrum?
The guys always speak about caps. Now, I think it's actually a lot of nonsense, seriously. To a degree, it has a huge influence. To a guy playing his first 4 test matches, yes, he's naive, you can intimidate him. I mean, he's let down the years. After about 7 or 8 test matches, the guys start getting settled in the position. you stand there, you face England at home and away, and you sorry. So once you play past 10 test matches, it's not a real. The only that comes in then is your attitude in the field. Let's keep it up for the game. So yes, we have the very inexperienced guys. Have you played Etzebeth, Mum? How many test matches has he played? 9?
Yeah.
9 test matches. He's past the stage of being a youngster. A guy like Nathan Sharp, with respect, I think when you get past about 80 test matches, your real effect on the field kind of dissipates a bit. You have all the experience, but normally you've lost all the pace that you used to have, or you don't really want to wipe those up because you've had 2 shoulder offs and you've had a knee up, and you kind of work your way around the field and use your experience. But I think the Bok pack has enough experience. We have guys there who's played a while, so I think we have enough balance, especially in the pack, for us to not be able to use that at a very young pack and we're still learning excuse.
And
I don't buy.
Yeah, but I think that also came through just in terms of the second half performance against the Irish, because the pack was really nowhere in that first half, and then essentially won the game, even though the driving maul, I mean, I don't know how, there was probably 4 occasions where there could have been penalties for collapsing the maul in that game in the second half.
There should have been a penalty try in the one stage, yeah, I agree with you. But also what happened was the game changed when we started competing at the breakdown more.
Yeah.
The one problem you have in a test level when you're playing against, when South play against the Springboks, they're expecting you to hit. I mean, I was in Singapore last 2 weekends ago. I did a function with Tana Umanga, the ex-All Black captain. And the guys were asking what the difference between All Blacks and Springboks. And the one thing he said, and every All Black I've ever had a drink with or spoken to away from rugby field, all said it. When you're running against the Springboks, expect to be hurt, because they are going to come and hurt you. They are going to take you on. The problem is that when our Boks can play against Ireland, and most of the guys, the youngsters, never played against the Springboks before, when they throw their body at you, because they're going to, they've heard about this, these Springbok boys and how tough and they're going to hurt you. When they start climbing into you and you don't live up to the expectations, they start gaining confidence against you. What probably happened against Ireland in some subtle way is that the Irish pack had thrown everything they had in the first half. Come out the second half, they thought, these blacks aren't as mean as we thought they are, and the Springboks kind of pitched up on the field for the second half and turned the game around. But you can have the Scots having watched the game and thinking, geez, I want to have a crack at these Springboks now. And they shouldn't. They should be thinking, geez, I'm going to play the Springboks off the All Blacks. I wish I had a hammy or something. Because you don't ever want to play against the Springboks. You shouldn't ever want to look forward to playing against the Springbok pack.
Excellent. Mark Andrews, I think we're going to let you go and get back to fighting for in the real world like the rest of us.
Just before you go, Mark, I just want to say thank you for ending the best drinking game I've ever invented when you retired.
What?
It was the Mark Andrews contact lens drinking game.
Dude, you know, should do start taking my life. I mean, especially the Kiwis and Aussies. All this water out of the Springbok ploy or Sharks ploy. Just slow the game down to use the contact lens. This is only wish. Oh, but anyway, guys, good luck and enjoy the rest of the last 2 games. And hopefully it's the next 2 weekends, happy weekends for all of us.
Excellent. Mark Andrews, thanks so much for joining us on the Sports Illustrated show on Loud Radio. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, guys. Go well, eh? Bye.
Cheers, Mark.